Envision the heat of battle not with swords and armor, but in the close cutting quarters of a modern life, where every glance can be a challenge and every word a potential fuse. You stand in the eye of a silent storm, a partner's sharp, unexpected critique, a colleague's passive-aggressive email, a customer's unreasonable fury, all aimed squarely at your center. In that instant, do you feel the fire rise in your chest? Does the ancient, reactive wiring of your brain instantly take over, flooding your judgment with cortisol, demanding a proportional, perhaps even escalated, counterstrike? It's the moment the mind goes molten, soft, vulnerable, and formless, ready to be shaped not by your will, but by the outside pressure. Perhaps you've walked away from one of these small, sudden conflicts, stomach churning, replaying the harsh words you let slip. Or worse, the silent, resentful retreat you took, feeling less like a victor and more like a casualty of your own lack of control. How many of your most regrettable moments, those words you wish you could pull back, those doors you slammed shut, were born not out of malice, but out of a sudden, blinding flash of lost composure? What if you could hold that stillness, that unbreakable inner calm, not just on the meditation cushion, but directly in the white-hot center of a human clash? It's a peace that isn't passive. It's the quiet, coiled power of a master swordsman who knows that the truest advantage is held long before the first strike. Today, we turn to the legendary figure who embodied this principle, Miyamoto Musashi, the great, undefeated Kensei sword saint of Japan, and forge his battlefield stillness into a shield for your everyday conflicts. We'll learn how to transform the chaos of human friction into the very anvil that tempers your steel mind. Meet Eliza. She's 32, a dedicated emergency room nurse working the relentless night shift in a sprawling urban hospital in Philadelphia. Her days are often spent trying to catch sleep, but her nights are a crucible of high-stakes, life and death decisions, all carried out under immense stress and emotional duress. Her most frequent battle wasn't with trauma, but with fatigue and her own short fuse, especially with her team. She had a kind heart, but the constant pressure had filed her patience down to nothing. She was known for her sudden, cutting responses, a defensive snapping at a tired intern, a terse dismissal of a slower colleague. She saw it as efficiency, but her colleagues saw it as volatile hostility. Her internal monologue during a typical high-pressure shift was a non-stop, angry broadcast. "They're too slow. Why didn't they check that? Can't they see I'm drowning?" One particularly brutal Friday night, a seasoned respiratory therapist named David calmly pointed out an error Eliza had made on a ventilator, setting a minor, easily corrected slip, but one with major potential consequences. Instantly, the molten core of Eliza's exhaustion flared. She didn't pause, didn't breathe. Her voice, usually warm, came out razor-sharp. "If you want to be the attending, David, feel free. Otherwise, focus on your own work." The room went silent. David simply nodded, corrected the setting, and walked away, his face holding a look of weary resignation. Eliza felt the immediate, sickening crash of regret. The error was hers, the arrogance was hers, and the collateral damage was the erosion of trust in a place where trust meant survival. That morning, too wired to sleep, she found herself not watching another mindless show, but browsing an online forum discussing mental discipline. A post mentioned the concept of Fudōshin, Immovable Mind, and a quote attributed to Musashi, "When you have attained the way of strategy, there will be one thing, and 10,000 things." She paused. One thing, 10,000 things. What if the one thing was her inner state, and the 10,000 things were the infinite variables and conflicts of the ER? Driven by a desperate need for change, Eliza picked up Musashi's Book of Five Rings. What struck her wasn't the swordsmanship, but the philosophy of perception in battle. Musashi wrote about viewing a confrontation with the eyes of Canon, seeing the whole situation simultaneously, not just the point of attack. This was the opposite of how Eliza operated. She was so focused on the immediate threat or error that she lost sight of the bigger picture, the patient's stability, the team's cohesion, her own reputation. She decided to forge her own Fudōshin. The first step was a simple, yet monumental ritual she branded as the 90-second anchor. Step 1. The 90-second anchor of stillness. Post-wake, instead of grabbing her phone, she would sit with her hands on her knees, close her eyes, and etch a single intention into her mind for 90 seconds. Her first intention was simple: I choose my response. She didn't seek calm, she sought choice. This small, repeated act, a microdose of intention, was her first fold of steel. In the hospital, it was harder. The first week, she failed constantly. A charge nurse snidely remarked on her charting speed, and Eliza instantly reverted, firing back a defensive explanation. That night, she scribbled in her journal, I let her press my trigger. My mind turned to soup in 3 seconds. Musashi wouldn't have even registered it as a threat to his core. She was hitting the emotional low unique to this struggle. The realization that intellectual understanding means nothing without practical, physical conditioning. Her breakthrough came during a critical intake. A worried son was shouting at the triage nurse, demanding to see a doctor immediately, clearly terrified and out of control. Previous Eliza would have stepped in with authority, using volume and position to shut him down. But as she approached, she heard the whisper of Musashi's wisdom: see the whole person, not just the weapon. She forced herself to step back, a metaphorical unburdening of the blade. Step 2. The unburdening of the blade, recognizing the true center. When conflict arose, she'd physically drop her shoulders and focus on the small, cool spot beneath her sternum, her hara or physical center. She wouldn't try to solve the conflict immediately. She'd aim to locate the emotional core of the other person. She saw the son's fear, not his anger. She didn't meet his volume. She dropped hers, her voice a calm, even tone. Sir, I see how scared you are. That's why we're here. Tell me about your mother, slowly. The effect was immediate. His shout dissolved into a trembling explanation. By staying rooted in her own stillness, she had allowed the real problem, his fear, to come to the surface. And in doing so, she neutralized the conflict. In that instant, Eliza sensed her steel mind taking shape, fold by resilient fold. This is the profound, counterintuitive truth of mindfulness in conflict. The goal is not winning the argument, but preserving your inner state. Like bamboo bending in the gale, not snapping, but swaying toward the light, your flexibility is your strength. When Musashi spoke of Iki, the two-sword style, he was also speaking of the two aspects of awareness. One focused inward on your center, self-possession, and one focused outward on the opponent, strategic awareness. Scientific research, particularly studies from Harvard on cognitive behavioral responses, echoes this ancient wisdom. The simple act of a 3-second pause before responding, known as the mindful gap, has been shown to shift activity from the reactive, primitive amygdala to the thoughtful, executive functions of the prefrontal cortex. This pause creates a neural pathway, strengthening your capacity to choose your response over time. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, reminded us that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgment about events. Conflict is just an event. The explosion is our judgment and subsequent uncontrolled reaction. Eliza continued her journey, refining her strategy. Step 3. The mirroring of intention. De-escalation by acknowledgement. Before any response in conflict, start with a phrase that acknowledges the other person's reality, even if you disagree with it. For Eliza, I hear that you feel neglected, or it sounds like you're under immense pressure. This is the samurai's strategy of reading the opponent's rhythm and then stepping to the side, not meeting their force head-on. Step 4. The non-zero day of composure. Acknowledge that you will have setbacks. When she snapped, she would not fall into self-judgment, but would immediately perform a 2-minute reset, a brief walking meditation focused only on the contact of her feet with the floor. The non-zero day mindset applies here. If you maintain your composure for just one more interaction than you did yesterday, you have advanced. Every tiny win compounds. Over months, the change in Eliza was palpable. She still faced the same life or death pressures, but she met them with a quiet decisiveness. She became a pillar of calm for her team. One night, a doctor, exhausted and snapping after a difficult procedure, threw a clipboard onto the counter near her. Eliza paused, met his gaze not with challenge but with steady, unyielding observation. She simply said, "Doctor, let's talk about the patient first. We can worry about the clipboard in 5 minutes." The doctor, taken aback by her lack of reaction, instantly softened. "You're right, Eliza. My apologies. The patient is." Her stillness had become his anchor. She hadn't sought to dominate. She had sought to ground. That persistent practice, the anchor, the unburdening, The mirroring, it forges your edge into legend. Your external conflicts are merely the heat needed to temper your steel mind, forever unyielding in its core, yet flexible in its approach. This is the ultimate lesson of Musashi's dual perspective. You must know the world, but you must know your own heart even better. True strength isn't about the sharpness of your counterattack. It's about the depth of your stillness, the silence from which all wisdom and strategy is born. Go now, and embrace the next conflict as the forge that perfects you. Hold your stillness. Choose your response. What's your inaugural 90-second anchor intention today? Share your commitment in the comments below. If this forge ignites your journey, subscribe to Steel Mind for more tempered truths.